If you'd like to give some, we just so you're aware, we all have your resume and
Okay.
all of your information in front of us. So,
Very good.
all right, we will move on. Is there anything not in your resume or in your cover letter that you feel we should know?
Right. So you have the basics, as you know, I'll cover, a resume can only be so long, but a little details. Of my 30 years of experience in private and government sectors, I have over 25 years in high performance organizations. One of those was the Salem Nuclear Generation Station, Procter & Gamble manufacturing plant. I worked in telephone and electric companies. I have several years serving as in leadership positions in volunteer and EMS organizations. I held the rank of fire chief and assistant chief, and I've been in EMT for over 30 years. I volunteered in other organizations throughout, SPCA, Habitat for Humanity, and most recently, the Fine Arts Fiesta. I've led several high priority projects at the nuclear station, overseeing teams as large as 12. I did audits and assessments. And I was a member of the Nuclear Review Committee, which was our senior executives, outside peers, governmental agencies coming in to make sure this plant was operating safely. At P&G, I was a project manager for large projects where I oversaw several foremen. For a 7-year period in my career, I attended night school 2 nights a week while working my full-time job to obtain my MS in organizational management and my MBA. During my 6 years here at Luzerne County, I oversaw the dome restoration. I managed several department remodels and/or moves, the restoration of large sections of the Human Services Building after our unfortunate fire several years ago. A couple floods in buildings because of broken waters, and 3 major power outages that I was instrumental in getting them restored. This gave me an opportunity to meet and work with many department and division heads. And in the beginning of my career here, I attended for over a 2-year period, PennDOT LTAP, that's the local technical assistance program classes, and that earned me my Rhodes Scholars 1 and 2 certifications. This gives me a very good understanding of roads, how they're maintained and how they're rebuilt. I was a judge of elections in my home township for several elections. And since the beginning of my time here, I've assisted the Election Bureau in providing election day technical support. And I performed poll worker training and technical support prior to that.
Thank you, Mr. McIntosh. Also, I'll interrupt quickly, just for members of the public, if you could all just make sure your cell phones are silenced and just keep any other interruptions to a minimum. While this is in public, they are still interviews, so we just want to be respectful of the candidates. Thank you. Okay, Mr. McIntosh, the county manager is responsible for presenting a budget to council. What is the most challenging part of budgeting for you?
The most challenging part of managing the budget?
Yep.
Okay, so we all know we've been fighting a massive debt that we all inherited, you guys as council, because of a previous government structure. So we need to maintain a tight budget going forward to relieve ourselves of that debt. I believe it's in 2030. And that's going to be a challenge with rising inflation and the need for infrastructure and to get our people to a salary level where we can maintain and keep them. That's probably going to be the biggest challenge. However, the rank and file of the county government, the people that fall directly under the county manager, I believe is doing a really good job keeping their budgets. It's just going to be a continuing challenge with inflation and the cost of everything going up.
Thank you. What do you feel is the biggest issue facing the county currently?
Staffing levels. Absolutely staffing levels. Had a note here. We have several departments that are severely understaffed. Sheriff's Department, 911, Children and Youth. We can't seem to find an IT director, which is very important to maintain our IT system, which we all depend on daily. That's a big problem that we need to resolve it, and that's probably one of the biggest challenges that's facing us now.
Thank you. Can you give us an example of a time you identified and solved a problem before it became urgent?
Identified and solved the problem before it became urgent. So my office of the engineers, we had a small roof leak, And I immediately noticed it was just a block scupper, but I went into great detail, investigated, and found out that the roof is actually way past its life expectancy. So I investigated, I did a RFP, we got bids, and we issued a contract, and we're going to be replacing it this summer. And luckily we did, because now it's starting to leak severely on us. And if we waited to, it was actually leaking and ceiling tiles were falling out, we would have had to spend more money to do repairs to the structure if the roof leaked for several years until we could figure out a way to replace it. So taking action immediately and investigating it solved us extensive repairs.
Thank you. How do you plan to address the large amount of open positions of employment in the county, as well as employee turnover?
All right, I alluded a little bit to that. Other than that's going to probably be our biggest challenges I had mentioned a little earlier. We could underpay people and give them a good work environment, they'll stay. We can pay them a lot and treat them terribly, they'll stay, but we cannot treat them terribly and underpay them. So we need to focus on maintaining a positive, healthy work environment. And we have to adjust the salaries where we are. Not saying we have to pay them top level, but we have to be a little more competitive than we are now. So once we get these people, it's very important to maintain them. We have to keep them. We have to train them. We have to make them feel valued.
Thank you. How do you weigh capital project needs versus tight budgetary concerns, and what type of planning is required?
Well, we have about 2.8 million left in the capital fund. We have to get an overall view of what our projects are, what our needs are. Start looking for alternative capital ways to fund these projects. For example, when the ARP money became available, I submitted 2 applications, one to pay for the chiller of this building and some other HVAC replacements, which is very important because that'll save us about $1.5 million. We did request and we received it for about $150,000 for door and automatic lock replacements. So looking for alternative funding sources is imperative that we could utilize for these projects before we have to dip into the capital fund. Of course, that's going to be a very dynamic situation. As we find funding sources, we can use them or they dry up, but we should try to find alternative sources before we tap into the capital fund.
Sure. Thank you. There are over 30 separate departments in the county that each do separate things. All employees would answer to you. How would you keep track of each department's goals, and how would you make yourself available to the employees in those departments?
So all these departments, they ultimately report up through 8 division heads. These people, this isn't a job that any one person, I can believe, can do by themselves. It's going to be a team effort. Something I learned from the Dragon Boat last year. You have all these rowers, you get them in the right place, so and then you get the drummer and you get them all coordinated, so they're all rowing at the same time. That's a good analogy for what we need to do here. We have to get the people in the right spots, the right people, train them, let those division heads manage the department heads who manage their employees who get the work done. So we would track it through. I'm not a big person for lots of matrix, but we have to have goals set. Set the goals, embed them into their yearly performance goals as a driver to get those goals accomplished. They have to be realistic and obtainable, however.
Sure. So since you are talking about goals, we'll come back to the next question and skip one ahead. Do you have a 30, 60, 90-day plan in mind, and can you explain what that will look like?
30, 60, 90. Okay. Then even 90 days. I've worked with a lot of department and division heads, like I said, moving their departments, remodeling, reshaping, finding out what their needs are from a building and grounds point of view. That I get a certain perspective working peer to peer. However, working as the overall manager, it'd be a different view. I'd have to be working with them and probably get more information than I would have gotten as a peer, as a manager, set the goals. So that would probably take close to 90 days to go through all the divisions and all the departments to learn what everybody's needs are. Their ultimate needs, not their wants, their actual needs to continue providing the services that the counties depend on every day. So the first 90 days would be more of a evaluation. That would get us into May, June, July, August, September. So now we have to start thinking about budget here, which can roll right into that. So the first 90 days, I would probably change very little, except for anything emergent or emergency. It'd be get an overall view. I will not come in guns blazing, and because I don't think at that level you can start making changes to an organization this big. We don't have the organizational dexterity to do that. And people need stability right now. We've been in chaos now for about almost 2 years.
Thank you. What is your plan for communicating with county council? With 11 members, how would you work to make sure all of their questions are answered?
All of the county council's questions are answered.
Yes.
I don't know what that looks like. I can't imagine how many would be received every day. Hopefully that wouldn't take up my entire day where I couldn't get anything else accomplished, but I would have to work through them, find out. Maybe a phone call rather than an email response would be more appropriate, a little faster. Maybe the dialogue would solve a lot of the issues. Hopefully, clear communications, what we're doing, what we're planning, our goals and objectives would not create any surprises, which would generate a great number of questions.
Thank you. What is your plan to best engage the community in county events?
County events?
Yes.
Can you provide an example of what you're referring to?
Rocking the river.
Okay, Rocking the River. Well, we advertise, I believe that's, we do have a small part of the sheriff's department provides security, the building and grounds provides the cleanup and the setup for a lot of the things. We would advertise, we'd use, of course, social media. There's several platforms available, advertise, possibly a radio ad.
Thank you. Our media is very active in this county. Can you tell us of your past relationship and experience with the media and what your approach would be with the reporters who cover county issues? This is a two-part question. So that's the first part. And the second part will be, have you followed recent news articles regarding the county? And can you give an example of one that should have or could have been avoided?
First one is I've had several interactions with our media in the past several years, a lot of it related to our buildings and grounds. One example in particular was when we lost the Penn Place Power about a year and a half ago. I got a phone call, where are you at? I'm like, Penn Place, I'm trying to find out what's going on, make sure the building's secure. I get a phone call, Andy Michalczyk will be there in 5 minutes. He's at the square walking down. Can you be ready to give an interview? I'm like, okay. So, got my thoughts together in those 4.5 minutes until he got there. And we spoke a little. I gave him a few sound bites and information what he needed. And I just was open, truthful, and answered his questions. Now, the second part, could you read?
Yep, the second part is, have you followed recent news articles regarding the county? And can you give an example of one that should have or could have been avoided?
I do glance at the newspaper every day because sometimes they provide a good insight. The one that comes to mind this morning was the election ballot questions where the municipality wasn't listed on there. And that provided a lot more insight than the first article where everybody looked at it, all the candidates, and we even went down to Harrisburg and they all looked at it and no one picked it up. The answer for that is go back to the source document, find out what is required by statute or law to be on the ballots. Generate a procedure to have a checklist and then get a peer check on it. It's amazing how it got through all those I's and no one picked up on it. But they need to go back, make a policy and a checklist so they have everything that needs to be on there is there.
Thank you. Employee morale seems to be an issue as of lately, and county council can sometimes add to that negativity. How do you plan to improve employee morale?
That's a good one. Stability. In a word, stability. Come in, listen to them, find out what their needs are. Do my best to help them meet their needs, not their wants, their needs. What do you need to continue providing the services to the people of the county? See what we can do to address them. Is it staffing? What Whatever the question is, I will work with them. That's my job. All my custodians, I tell them, if you need a better tool, a smaller mop, a bigger mop, whatever you need, tell me, I will get it for you if it makes your life easier. I don't tell them how to do their job. I tell them what their job is and let them find the best method that works for them. That would be my overall strategy. That would go a long way to improving morale. I would not micromanage anyone. These people are professionals, they're adults, and many are very good at their jobs. They're just given them the tools and the ability to do it. I have full confidence that our employees will come through for us.
Thank you. Last question. Describe a time when you had to make an important decision and information regarding that decision was limited.
Are you meaning an immediate decision?
So I'll repeat the question.
Okay.
Describe a time when you had to make an important decision and information regarding that decision was limited.
Okay, I would utilize all the time available to me to gather as much information. I understand that you said limited. I would, maybe from the one source, I would try different sources. I would get as much background. I'd tap into my knowledge. And I would just take that and use every second I had before I had to make the final decision. And then I would just make the best decision I had based on the limited information I had, based on my knowledge and experience.
Thank you.
Maybe it wouldn't be the best decision. However, I would learn from that. But I want to make it clear that even a bad decision is better than no decision.
Thank you. That concludes our questions. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I gave you a good background, and I do believe, to follow up on that one question, that good government starts with good people. We have good people. We just need to get them in a little better place, give them the resources to do their job effectively, and they will provide a good amount of service to our residents that depend on what we provide for them every day.
Great. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. McIntosh. You do not have to go back into that room. You can leave, or you can hang out here if you'd like.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Coker. It's called Kingsley. It's pretty. No, I got it from Kingsley. That's the name of the company. I just ordered it directly from there. Which is crazy because I ordered almost everything on it. But Kingsley.
I'll tell you later. I'm very disappointed as a person.
Madam Chair, may I use the podium?
Sure. If they want to move some microphones around, maybe. Good. Mr. Kokomo, thank you for coming in. We will jump right in if that's okay with you.
Yes.
Please briefly tell us a little bit about yourself and why you are interested in the Luzerne County Manager position.
Madam Chair, honorable council members, there are numerous reasons why I'm attracted to the role as Luzerne County Manager. This is a pivotal moment in Luzerne County's history. I want to be part of moving Luzerne County forward. Maintaining the status quo will not suffice. Maintaining the status quo will have Luzerne County retreating. My vision for Luzerne County has always been and will remain that we should be a county that's exemplary, not only across the Commonwealth, but across the nation. It is time today, now, for Luzerne County to be viewed in a positive light and not to be a joke. Together, we need to strive for the county to be its best, not only in maintaining our roads and bridges and providing services for the marginalized, but how we run our elections and how we run our prisons. I have been a resident of Luzerne County for most of my life. My father was a school teacher in the Hazleton area school district. My mother stayed at home and raised myself and my two sisters. My paternal grandparents were business owners, and my maternal grandfather was a coal miner. And my grandmother scrubbed floors. They worked hard. They worked hard to educate their daughters, and they worked hard to make sure that myself and my sisters were educated. But they also worked hard, and they showed us that we need to give back to our community. Public service has always been a part of my life. And I had the privilege for being the Luzerne County Chief County Solicitor for years. And for a short time, I had the privilege of being the acting county manager. Doing what is right for Luzerne County is part of my fabric. And that is why I'm here today.
Thank you. So you touched on this a little bit, but is there anything not in your resume or in your cover letter that you feel we should know?
I believe that my resume was exhaustive and showed my experience not only as the acting county manager and the chief county solicitor, but my time with the judiciary and the Court of Common Pleas, and then my history as a litigator and as an attorney.
Thank you. The county manager is responsible for presenting a budget to council. What is the most challenging part of budgeting for you?
The most challenging part of budgeting is having to sit across from department heads and division heads who really do want to make Luzerne County better, to sit across from them and say, no, you can't have these extra dollars because we just can't afford it. But at the same time, it also provides an opportunity for the county manager in leading the department and division heads to start thinking about how do we make our county more efficient. We cannot rely on increasing taxes as a default. My goal as county manager is to look at the expense side and to look how we can streamline our services in order to reduce costs. As a matter of fact, one of my first priorities is to have the department heads prepare a state of their department, a report that will measure their successes and recommend at least 5 ways to improve those measures and improve the efficiency of their departments.
Thank you. What do you feel is the biggest issue facing the county currently?
There are a lot of issues, I believe, that are facing the county currently. There's staffing issues. We have fiscal challenges. But the biggest issue facing the county, I believe, is that we need to collaborate. And that's one of the pivotal roles of the county manager, to make sure that the administration collaborates with council and to make sure that the administration collaborates with the department and the division heads to make sure that the county government is operating effectively.
Thank you. Give us an example of a time you identified and solved a problem before it became urgent.
I want to talk a little bit more about collaboration and how collaborating prevented a problem. And that has to do with the toll bridges that Governor Wolf had put forth. If you recall, Luzerne County had 2 toll bridges, one in Whitehaven and one near Nescopeck. And through the collaboration with Councilperson McDermott, Councilperson Thornton, we collaborated with Whitehaven and Nescopeck. We went to meetings together. We were on phone calls with PennDOT. We talked to the lawyers that were bringing litigation in order to stop that. And that collaboration ended up, we won. Those toll roads and those toll bridges are not going to be put in place. And the village of Whitehaven will remain intact, and the beautiful roads and farmland in Nescopeck will remain pristine.
Thank you. How do you plan to address the large amount of open positions of employment in the county as well as employee turnover?
As I mentioned, staffing is one of the primary issues that we have to address. And I know that there's been discussions about morale in the county, staffing and employment. And there's a lot of reasons for that in any organization. It could be salaries, it could be management or mismanagement. And it could be that individuals are just not in the position that they should be. But I'd like to think that it's not so much morale that is affecting the staffing, but stability. For the last 2 years, we only had a short period of time where there was a permanent county manager. And that affects the workforce. We have a workforce that wants to do well. And the role of the county manager and the role of a stable county manager would support that. People want to come to work and be proud of the work that they do. So as county manager, I will listen to what the division heads and the department heads have to say about their staff. I will talk to their staff. I will look and I will listen, and I will report to council what I find.
Thank you. How do you weigh capital project needs versus tight budgetary concerns? What type of planning is required?
That's another area where we need a lot of collaboration. We have multiple buildings, and we have buildings that are old buildings, and we have buildings that need a lot of work. And one of my plans within the first 90 days is to work with the Division of Operations and the Engineering Department to get an exhaustive list of what the capital projects are, what the future capital needs are, and how we will go about addressing those needs.
Thank you. There are over 30 separate departments in the county that each do separate things. All employees would answer to you. How would you keep track of each department's goals, and how would you make yourself available to the employees in those departments?
I had the good fortune of being the chief county solicitor, and that role is the one role in the county where you really are working with each and every department. We get calls, questions, we represent the different needs of the division heads and the department heads. I always made myself available to the staff if there were issues. But what I plan, and this will be a regular planning, is to meet with the division heads, but also meet with the division heads and their respective department heads on a regular basis so that I can hear exactly what's going on, the good and the bad. And we will formulate reports, and those reports hopefully will be transmitted to council.
Thank you. What is your plan for communicating with county council? With 11 members, how would you work to make sure all of their questions are answered?
I do take pride in the way that I communicated with council when I was the acting county manager. You are the elected officials. You're the individuals who hear from the constituents when there's a problem, and you need to know and have access to information, not only to respond to those queries from residents, but also you need to have the information because you're the decision makers. What I plan to do, for example, is to have a list, a working, running list of all the contracts that the county has and what their termination date in any term in those contracts that affect not only the duration, but if reports have to be given to the administration. That way, you will know, and you won't get the information and you won't get the list that there's a contract that is terminating and you have to vote on it at this meeting because the contract term is up. That's not how you make good decisions. You need to have that information beforehand. And you need to know what is out there in order for you to make those informed decisions. And I plan to have a system in place that you will get that information in a timely and effective manner. And I believe all of you know that when I was the acting county manager, if you pick up the phone and you call me, I would call you back. I would try to get the information that you requested, and if I didn't get the information, I would try harder. I plan, if I have the privilege of being appointed county manager, to reach out to each and every one of you. And I want to sit down. I want to hear what you have to say. Because one of the most important roles of the county manager is to make sure that the county council vision and policies for the county are put in place.
Thank you. Do you have a 30, 60, 90-day plan in mind, and can you explain what that will look like?
I do. And if you will, what I'm going to do is start at the 90 days. 90 days will bring us on the cusp of budgets. That's when we will start formulating, meeting, and with the department and division heads to get the outline of what the road that we have to take for the budget. I'd love to have a county-wide strategic plan for council within 90 days. I don't think that that's realistic. My target date will be the first quarter of 2024. Not only will there be a strategic plan, but in that strategic plan, there will be strategies on how to accomplish what our goals are. But in the first 90 days, 90 days out, I will provide to council a brief on the update on prisons, the suicides, security, and what alternate paths are available for a new prison. You will receive updates and a brief on children and youth services. We will review the recommendations of the investigation and compliance and what the status is going forward. You will have an update and a brief on our roads and our bridges. In 90 days, you will have a maintenance calendar for our roads. We need to have a maintenance plan. I don't know if it's urban legend, but when they start painting the Golden Gate Bridge and they finish, they start over again. We have to maintain our roads. The roads that don't need repair need to be maintained, because that's how we prevent having to spend millions of dollars to rebuild roads. In 90 days, you will have updates and a brief on our onboarding. And what I mean by onboarding, it will be how we onboard new department and division heads. We have a very good onboarding process for our staff, but we don't have an onboarding process for our department heads and division heads. And we have new department and division heads. Not only will they get onboarding, but our sitting division heads and department heads will too. And this is what they're going to review. They're going to review our purchasing policy. They're going to review our RFP and our RFP decision-making process. But first, we have to review those processes. So within the first 45 days, I'll be reviewing our RFPs. I'm going to reach out to the Office of Law. We're going to sit down. We're going to look at our RFPs, because this is something that I learned from Councilperson Miscavige. We post these RFPs and we have contracts, but sometimes there are hidden fees that aren't addressed in the RFP and somehow lost in the contract. That is not going to happen going forward. And that's part of the plan of looking at the expense side. We have to make sure that our RFP process and our contract process is top notch. We also have to look at our purchasing process. So we'll be reviewing those early on so we can train our department and our division heads. Also, within the 45 days, you will have a list of all engineering projects and their status. You'll have a list and status of all litigation. Within the first 45 days, you'll have updates on all grants that we've applied for and all upcoming grants. And it won't end there. This will be on a regular cycle that you will get these updates, but we're starting within the first 45 days when I become county manager. And in the first few weeks, of course, I want to meet with council. I want to meet with the department and division heads. I want to set up a calendar of town hall meetings. What I realized since being in private practice, I've had the opportunity to be the attorney for various zoning boards and planning commissions, and they have a lot to say. They have a lot to say to me as a former acting county manager, and we need to listen. We need to listen to our local municipalities of what they need and how we can collaborate with them, how we can help them and how they can help us, because we are part of a big community. And I will also set up meetings with the local mayors to get their feedback on what the cities in Luzerne County may need.
Thank you. What is your plan to best engage the community in county events?
There are a lot of events going on in Luzerne County. I didn't realize, but we not only have a wonderful Philharmonic, but we have a wonderful chamber music society. We have a very vibrant art community. We have the Sardoni Gallery in downtown Wilkes-Barre. And apparently we are in an area that has a multitude of festivals, and we also have a very vibrant environmental community. And I think it's very important that the county manager be visible at events and be one of the promoters of Luzerne County. And I would enjoy doing any one of those items.
Thank you. Our media is very active in the county. Can you tell us your past relationship and experience with the media and what your approach would be with the reporters who cover county issues? Second part, have you followed recent news articles regarding the county, and can you give an example of one that should have or could have been avoided?
Well, I think I'd like to think that I had a very good relationship with the local press, both with the newspapers and with the television press. I also did an interview, I think on the radio once, which was actually very enjoyable. The relationship with the press needs to be strong because it's one of the foundations of transparency. Obviously, there's certain information that we can't make public, and that timing is of the essence. But we have to have a very strong relationship with the press in order to get information out to the public. One of the most recent articles or issues that were covered by the press was the shortage of paper during the election. It is imperative that when an event like that happens, that the county administration issue a public statement through the press to the voters. A specific public statement needed to be given so that voters knew what was going on and how it was being corrected. I believe strongly that if the post-event handling was quicker, exact, and correct, a lot of the backlash would not have happened. The voters needed to know what was going on, and that didn't happen. And if you have a good relationship with the press, and you issue the public statements in a timely fashion, you're reducing a lot of the anxiety.
Thank you. Employee morale seems to be an issue as of lately, and county council can sometimes add to that negativity. How do you plan to improve morale?
I touched on it briefly before. A lot of it is communication. A lot of it is listening. A lot of it is giving council information in a timely fashion. Information that you can gather, you can understand, you can ask questions, rather than having an event happen or something happen and you don't know why that happened. But in order to specifically address the morale of the county, I think it really is the county manager finding out what the reason is for any kind of low morale. I know that certain departments have been given raises, and if they're still having staffing problems, then it's a management issue, and that has to be addressed.
Thank you. Can you describe a time when you had to make an important decision and information regarding that decision was limited?
I have to go back to the day that the director of CYS was arrested and indicted by the Attorney General. Just so everybody knows, when the Attorney General does an investigation, it's not public, and they don't tell you a lot of information beforehand. And when that broke, all the information that I had was the affidavit and the complaint that was filed. So I needed to make a decision quickly. I knew that there had to be a public statement, and I also knew that there had to be an investigation. And in the meantime, I also needed to make sure that the staff had answers.
Thank you. That concludes our questions. Do you have anything that you feel you need to add?
No, I have had a prepared closing, but I want to thank council for the opportunity. I had planned remarks to talk about fiscal responsibility and accountability and collaboration. But I want to tell you and talk to you about something more personal so you understand who I am. A few months ago, a friend of mine passed away far too young. And I went to her funeral, and I was in line for a while. And next to me in line was Neil Roberto, who actually just retired after 33 years of working for Catholic Social Services in Hazleton. His father and my father were friends. And he talked to me about my experience here at the county. And he said to me, Romilda, your father would have been proud of you. And that lifted my spirits. And perhaps I should have been satisfied with just that. But my dad didn't raise me to be that way. I told you he was a teacher. He passed away when I was 15. It was in the summer. And I still remember that his students filled up the church at his funeral. My dad was an extraordinary teacher, and he taught me responsibility. He taught me to be responsible for my actions, whether they were good or bad, whether I was a success or a failure. He taught me about teamwork, that it matters, that working together, we can do good for the greater community. He taught me not to remain silent in the face of injustice. Taught me to be the voice for those who aren't heard. Honorable council members, I'm here now. I'm ready to be responsible for the direction of Luzerne County. I'm here now. I'm ready to be part of a team with council, with the staff, to make Luzerne County the best that it can be. And I'm here now, and I'm ready to be the strongest voice for the people of Luzerne County. I am here now, and I'm ready.
Thank you. Thank you for your time tonight. We appreciate you coming in. You do not have to go back into the little council chambers back there. You can have a seat here or you can
In
leave.
the soundproof booth.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a 5-minute break.
Mr. Rosencrantz will be next. It is 5:58. Let's start back up at 6:05.
So we tell you to go to the bathroom before.
Turn your mics
You better watch what you're saying.
I got them.
Yeah, but I think
Hey, 6:05, council chambers back on, let's go. Can we get Mr. Rosenthal?
This authority was asked. Well, I'm here.
One at a time, though. Yeah. Mr. Rosencrantz, how are you?
Good evening.
Thanks for coming in. Thanks for hanging out in the back. I hope it wasn't too bad
Wasn't
back
too
there.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes. If you don't mind, we will jump right in. Please briefly tell us a little bit about yourself and why you were interested in the Luzerne County Manager position.
Well, I've been the director for 9 years. I've been with the county for 17. I have 27 years of direct public safety experience. And simply stated, I truly care about the success and the image of this county. It's no easy task being an employee and reading about the county in the paper every day, sometimes negative, not always positive. And it was no secret when I took over 911, we were in a bad spot. I've stayed there. I'm dedicated, and we are in a staffing crisis right now. It's no secret. We have 34 vacancies, and we have a plan. And every time I've come to council, I have a solution, not just a problem. So I want to be the county manager, and I want to get this county to where it needs to be. And I want to remove the us versus them mentality between council and the employees. And I truly want to work together and get this county back on track and stop being in the papers for negativity. That's why I want to do this job.
Thank you. Is there anything not on your resume or in your cover letter that you feel we should know?
I'm passionate, caring. I'm a firm but fair leader. And I will hold the division heads and department heads accountable for the positions that they're in. We don't have many more opportunities to get things right. And I just want to assure every member of council that if you give me the opportunity, I will get us to where we need to be and make changes where necessary, as painful as that may be.
Thank you. The county manager is responsible for presenting a budget to council. What is the most challenging part of budgeting for you?
those of you that know me, there's many of you at this table that don't know me for many years, but those that do know that every year since I've been director, I come in under budget. I'm fiscally responsible. I do everything I can to get grant dollars where I can through 911 grants. I've brought in millions of dollars, and I bring fiscal responsibility, and I will carry that on to the county manager level. I understand that we can't keep raising taxes, but there may be a point in time where we don't raise taxes. Where are we going to cut then? Because there's really no other option. We can't make widgets to increase our revenue. Our only revenue source right now is taxes. And that is the last thing that we want to do, especially coming off of COVID. So my plan is to really look at the budget, see where we can cut surgically to make the savings. We have to pay attention to infrastructure. We cannot allow that to continue to crumble. But how are we going to pay for it? And that's the thing that we all have to work towards together. It's not just the county manager creating the budget, it's council, it's the employees, it's everyone working together to bring a budget that is doable, workable, that we can live within and not give up critical public safety, critical infrastructure. We can't keep kicking the can down the road, but we also can't tax our way out of the problem either. And we may need to make painful cuts where necessary.
Thank you. What do you feel is the biggest issue facing the county?
We have a staffing crisis in certain areas. I already mentioned 911. I have a plan. I'm going to be bringing that to you very soon, whether I'm the county manager or stay the 911 director. We're going to work together on that. There's certain departments that really need to learn from the past to prepare for the future. I don't know. I don't want to be a Monday morning quarterback. I don't manage other departments, but there are certain departments that really seem to not learn from past mistakes and get things right. And one of them is elections. We really have to take a look at that. If I'm county manager, my first day is going to be a visit to elections and find out what the heck is going on there. We really need to find out what we can do to stop the mistakes. We have a prison that is bleeding the county with funding. We can't keep throwing good money to bad. I don't know how to fix it right now, but I assure you that there has to be a better way than what we're doing right now. We can't keep investing millions of dollars into a building if we're planning on trying to get a new prison or whatever we're going to do. I don't know how we can run it more efficiently with 7 floors, with 1 elevator. That's a problem. We have some major issues that we really have to focus on and pay attention to. And I'm going to have to meet with the division heads and the department heads that are in charge of those agencies and really figure out what our next step is and where we're going. And we all have to work together. It's not a department head or an employee problem. It's all of our problem. It affects every one of us.
Thank you. Give us an example of a time you identified and solved a problem before it became urgent.
Well, I deal with emergencies every day. The global pandemic really caused a detrimental issue for us with staffing. We try to stay ahead of problems and manage them. And one thing that was really plaguing us was the radio communications system in our county. We took a proactive approach to it. It was not an easy task. It was not easy for me to approach the former county manager who was acting at the time and tell him that I needed $25 million for a radio project. But we took a proactive approach and managed through that and took care of it before it became too much of an issue. And with that, even through the global pandemic and COVID-19, we stayed within budget. I didn't come to council and ask for another dime. I promised that I would stay within budget, and we did that. Fortunately, we got ARPA funding and we were able to add a couple features to the radio system. So I think that is one example of how we managed the project before it became a major problem, which would have been lack of communications for police, fire, and EMS agency in the county.
Great, thank you. How do you plan to address the large amount of open positions of employment in the county as well as employee turnover?
We have to be competitive. We are facing a major issue with trying to compete with the private sector. Unfortunately, we can't throw money at the problem like most corporations can. We have to get to the point where it's quality over quantity. And if we have to reduce positions to pay employees more that stayed and are loyal and get that applicant in the door, then we're going to have to do that. We can't throw money at the problem. I don't want to come to council and ask to raise taxes to pay higher salaries. And quite honestly, that is one thing that we're working on at 911. I have 34 vacancies. It's no secret that it's very difficult to operate in that condition, but we have, fortunately, management supervisors covering, and the plan that we're working on is to reduce the quantity of staff to bring in an applicant at a higher salary, and that's the plan that we're going to present to council and work with you through, and the union, of course. But that's one of the ways that we're handling it now and managing the staffing crisis. I believe other departments are, but that's the way we have to handle. We just have to really buckle down and be competitive and deal with it the best we can.
Thank you. How do you weigh capital project needs versus tight budgetary concerns, and what type of planning is required?
There's only so much to go around, right? You have to basically, I don't want to say rank them, but you have to take the worst problems and deal with them head on. I'm not saying that there are projects on that capital list that don't need to be done, but are they projects that can be put off 3, 5, 7 years and deal with the most pressing issues now? We have to keep our credit rating where it is. We have $178 million in debt still looming over us. We're going to have a tough 6 or 7 years until we get through that. How do we balance that debt, keeping the credit rating, and keeping our infrastructure from crumbling? That's the balancing act that we all have to work together as a team. Again, raising taxes is not the answer. If we have to make budgetary cuts to reduce the obligation for the debt payment, or maybe make cuts to increase our payments and reduce that debt faster, that will get us out of a real pickle. I mean, $26 to $28 million off the top of the budget every year is a very tough nut to crack. I mean, that hurts. Then you have a $33 million prison operation. That's a lot of money for basically 2 budget line items. Doesn't leave you a lot of wiggle room to manage capital projects. We just have to make budget decisions that are specific to the most pressing issues and put off what we can for now.
Thank you. There are over 30 separate departments in the county that each do separate things. All employees would answer to you. How would you keep track of each department's goals, and how would you make yourself available to the employees in those departments?
I'm very hands-on. I'm a consultative leader. I communicate well. I work with every department on a daily basis, pretty much with 911, even municipalities. I may not have the direct county manager experience right now, but I'm a quick learner, and I deal with municipalities and 175 police, fire, and EMS agencies on a daily basis. I can certainly communicate and deal with 30, 40 departments. But again, it comes down to accountability. I don't need to know how to do everyone's job. I need to hold the division heads, the department heads, the employees accountable to do their job and make sure that they are doing it well. And where they're not, we have to deal with that. That's the way I see the county manager role. I'm playing middle person between county council and the employees. And that's a tough balancing act to have 11 bosses plus trying to deal with 30 plus agencies. But I feel I have the background, I have the years of experience, I have the temperament. I usually go into situations where most people run away from my entire career, coming from law enforcement to 911. They're both very difficult tasks to deal with, and I'm confident that I can deal with 30 plus agencies and get us to where we need to be.
Thank you, Mr. Rosencrantz. You kind of made the segue yourself into the next question. What is your plan for communicating with county council? With 11 members, how would you work to make sure all their questions are answered?
When I was interim division head, I like to think that I was accessible. I think I answered a few of you. I don't remember the exact issue, but usually if you sent me an email, I answered you within about 10 minutes. I remember answering a council person on a holiday. I'm highly accessible. I think we do need open lines of communication between council and issues going on in the county or with the workforce. I understand that you're supposed to separate yourself from the daily operations, but you shouldn't be blindsided by something that happened or read about it in the paper. And I don't like that either as an employee. There are times where I read about something in the paper and I didn't even know about it as the 911 director. That's not a good feeling. I don't want that to happen to any of you. And I will certainly communicate well and keep everyone in the loop the best I can.
Thank you. Do you have a 30, 60, 90-day plan in mind, and can you explain what that will look like?
I have a 1-day plan in mind because I don't think we have 30 or 60 or 90 days, to be honest with you. I need to hit the ground running. If I'm chosen and I have the opportunity, we need to really, really get things together fast. I think we have some very dedicated employees that want to do the right thing, but turnover in an organization can be detrimental. And not having a county manager permanently and turnover, I think that causes a lot of issues where we lose sight of certain things and certain things slip by the wayside or things aren't followed. When you have that change, I didn't pick any of the division heads. I didn't hire any of the department heads. So that's a very difficult position to be in, to go in and reassess everyone and make sure that they're the right person for the job, right? So any good manager surrounds him or herself with strong people and a good team. 30 days, I really need to find out if that team is who I need to be around me and help me get the county to where it needs to be. Again, we have some major problems in departments, and we really need to be hyper focused on that and help them get through those problems.
Thank you. What is your plan to best engage the community in county events?
I like to think I'm accessible. I represent the 911 center well. I'm sure a few of you have seen me in the media. I try and do the right thing. I've never lied to any of you, and I don't plan to lie to any of you as a county manager. And I will not lie to the public either. I don't plan on it. Sometimes the truth hurts, the brutal honesty, but I am accountable to the taxpayers. I'm accountable to council, and I plan on staying that way. I want an open door policy. We all have to get through this together. And, you know, if the community has input, I will take it.
Thank you. Our media is very active in this county. Can you tell us your past relationship and experience with the media and what your approach would be with the reporters who cover county issues? And the second part of that question is, have you followed recent news articles regarding the county, and can you give an example of one that should have or could have been avoided?
I think I would like to think that I have a good rapport with the media. There's two of them in here and some news outlets. Whether it's good press or bad, I always give them the answer to where I legally can and not get the county in trouble. There's been so many articles that, again, I just can't help to think that if we paid attention a little bit better with our elections process, we could have avoided some negative press recently. And I'm not trying to Monday morning quarterback or throw a department under the bus. It's not easy doing this interview publicly because I have to work with all these people and I may be their manager someday. But we have to try and stop selling papers for the media. That's a good revenue source, by the way. We could get royalties from the paper because if they didn't have the county to do stories with recently, I don't know if they'd sell as many. So that might be a good revenue source. So that's my 2 cents on that one.
Thank you. You touched on this a little bit, but employee morale seems to be an issue as of lately, and county council can sometimes add to that negativity. How do you plan to improve employee morale?
I think bringing consistency to the position, a calming presence. I don't want to be the county manager that causes the us versus them environment. I truly feel that we could all work together. You're all in public service because you want to do better. We're county employees. We're trying to do the right thing. And I think bringing that to the table and working together and showing them that it can be done. I know it can be done. I think that will go a long way with morale and just giving them the sense that we can work together and that they shouldn't feel angst or anxiety when they have to come in front of council. I know many of you have said, come to us. We want to help. I think there's that little misunderstanding or separation that if you come to that podium, you're going to get knocked down or chastised or, confronted by some members of the public. And we need to get beyond that. We really need to work together to solve these problems. And I think I could bring that.
Thank you. Can you describe a time when you had to make an important decision and information regarding that decision was limited?
Oh, the COVID-19 pandemic, when it first hit. I remember getting that call from the former county manager, it was Dave Pedri at the time. And we had to make a decision together on whether to declare a state of emergency and when to shut down. And as you can imagine, we had no idea what was about to come. We had meetings and it was not an easy time. And there's no option to shut down 911. The public doesn't even know this at the time, but there was a time when we literally had to shut down the 911 floor and split between two buildings, and we never missed a 911 call. So I think that's a very good example of having to make a decision without a lot of information, because I never did that before. That's the first time that floor was completely shut down. We had to aeroclave it because we were severely infected. We had over 60% of our staff with COVID-19 at the time. And again, shutting down 911 wasn't an option. So we made the decision to split up the entire department between EMA and the 911 training room so we could aeroclave and disinfect the entire PSAP floor, dispatch floor. So that was a very tough decision with limited information. We had to do that pretty quickly.
Thank you for sharing. That was the last of our questions. Do you have anything you feel that you want to add?
I just would like to say, I could easily stay at 911. I could retire from there. I could easily continue to do my job there and do the best I can, but I truly care about the success of this county. And I decided to step up and apply to be county manager because I truly feel that I can make a difference. And what better way to go out for the rest of my career than being the manager that helped fix a lot of the issues that we were facing and get the county to where we need to be. And I just think it's important that all of you know that. And I respect your decision. And whatever your decision is, whether I'm going to be the next county manager or stay the 911 director, I'm dedicated and I will be here doing the best I can.
Thank you, Mr. Rosencrantz, and thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, you're free to go. You can head out, hang out, whatever you'd like to do.
Thank you.
All right, thank you to all three candidates who spent their evening with us. We now are open for public comment. I do ask that the public direct their comments to council and not to the candidates. We followed that format the last time we did public interviews, and I'd ask that we follow that again. The only slip I have here is Ms. Hartman.
Next to your microphone from over there, who do you want me to take this? Thank
There you
you.
go.
Hi, Elizabeth Hartman, Hanover Township. I appreciate the process tonight, and I appreciate you all taking the time and them taking their time coming in to talk. A lot of things were brought up, and I think we need a commissioner or a county manager that's going to be able to hit the ground running and has a solid 60, 90-day plan. It's totally up to you guys what you put in and who you put in the position. Elections coming. So we have a whole new group of people that may be coming in to sit in the seats in here. This may affect your votes when election time comes on how you vote, who you put in to manage the county. So that's something you have to think about. I respect Romilda for stepping back before and listening tonight, just different things. It just sounds like she has a plan. When she didn't know anything about Von Swan going down, I did. I was out in the courthouse lawn knowing they were coming to, it was getting released. So I knew before you guys knew that she was going to be arrested. Like I knew about the district attorney or the attorney general's audit that was going on. I knew about other stuff going on. And we have a lot of snakes in the county and rocks need to get uncovered, and whoever can hit the ground running and know what they're doing is going to be the best to take us forward. Luzerne County is a wonderful community. It's a wonderful community. My family's been here a very long time. Let's make it great again. Like everybody says that's what we want. We want it better. We want it better. We all have to work together to make it better. So whatever you choose for what's going to make Luzerne County better for our kids, our grandkids. That's who we need to be thinking about, what we're leaving to them. Because these decisions, this decision is what we're leaving to our children and our grandchildren. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hartman. Any other members of the public?
Hello,
Go ahead.
TJ Fitzgerald, Newport Township. I bought this because I was going to do a demonstration, but then after listening, I decided not to. I have 3 sets of flowers here for 14 candidates, and they were tall, middle, short for what they brought to the table. You know, I believe that, you know, I said previously on a radio talk show that the fix was in, that the establishments wants Romilda Crockamo. Whatever you decide, obviously we're a county, we're going to have to support you. I said that the last time you guys made a decision. I said, no matter what you came up with, you are the council, we elected you, and you guys are responsible for hiring a manager. However, I still do not think Romilda is a good choice. I think that, as I said on the talk radio, is when she left us, she said that she was going to stay. She was going to help enact the new county manager with a smooth transition. She said that the podium was over there. And I think she was here 1 to 3 weeks and left. And then after that, we had the election fiasco. I think if she stayed, it would have been a better transition. Maybe the fiasco at the election bureau might not have happened. Might have still happened. But she said I remember her saying it. She said that she wanted to stay here, serve Luzerne County. Within 3 weeks, she was in Lackawanna County. I made a big joke about it. I said, oh, she really loves the county. So I want you to consider that. Okay. That's a fair weathered friend. Okay. I don't pick my friends like that. I don't pick my employees like that. And I definitely don't pick my bosses like that. So whatever decision you make, I hope you make it fast. Because right now we did have another election problem underneath the acting manager where they didn't put the addresses. We keep on having issues. So we need to pass the torch. We need to pass it fast. And I got it.
Okay.
Sorry about that. And basically just really do your due diligence and don't do it because you're a friend or because they're connected or the path of least resistance. We do things because it's the right thing to do. Let's get the best candidate. 2 of you are not going to be here. One's acting and you have a beautiful relationship you're moving on to. So, even though you guys are voting, you're not going to have to deal with the manager for long. And then we have 4 incumbents that are running. We don't know if you guys are even going to be here in November. It's going to depend on what you do in the primary, what you do in the general. So, we're all watching you. We're all hoping you guys make a good decision. And we're going to be, we're hoping that we get a great manager. So you will not see me here. And I think that's all your goal, to never see me here again. So, hey, listen, y'all have a blessed day. And because of the interviews, it saved the thing. So
Thank you.
So here you go, Kendra. You said you wanted the flowers. You can have the flowers.
I was joking,
No,
but
but you can have.
thanks so much. This is a first.
That's a first, right?
This is,
There you
yeah,
go.
we should document this
You
thing.
know what? I never said I was a first at anything.
All right, thank you. Any other members of the public?
Joe Grantee, Plains. I just wanted to comment on the perception that I had sitting here. I noticed there was 3 candidates. They were all asked questions. 2 of them answered off the cuff, and one of them had a book that she kept turning the pages. And I'm just wondering if that was just a coincidence.
Hold on one second. Microphone. There we go.
Yeah, I just,
That's gonna be you in 4 years.
if that was just a coincidence or what might have happened there. There were notes to be referred to.
All 3 of them did have notes.
Pardon me?
All 3 of them had notes in front
I
of
could
them.
only see one.
These,
I couldn't
these,
see
Yeah,
what the
all 3 of
people
them
in
did
front
have
of us.
notes. He
the
referred
questions
to-
weren't formulated or passed out to anybody until I didn't even have all the questions together. Danielle just got them back to me
Okay,
earlier today. They were sent directly to Sharon. Sharon put them in a Word doc and sent them to council. By the time we finished it, it was 4:30.
okay, just,
So
I
there
just
was
needed
no,
clarification on that because the people sitting at the desk, I couldn't see what they were doing. It just seemed like they were going off the cuff with their answers and,
you don't have notes.
all right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grantee. Any other members of the public?
Motion to adjourn?
Okay, hold on. We have
Oh,
we
sorry.
have a hand up on the Zoom. Mr. Rabo.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. Members of council, as I listened to the interviews, I can't help but think and help to feel a little disappointed due to the fact that, as you all know, for years, when we talk, especially during the budget season, about how the county can find additional revenue. And none of the 3 applicants and candidates mentioned any alternatives to finding other revenue sources. And so I'll leave it. I will once again remind council, since the state is deliberating on the budget, and in 3 weeks, maybe a little over 3 weeks, the state will be passing or voting on the state budget. So I would remind council to get on the phone and contact our state representatives and senators, because as I'll remind you again, in the next meeting, council meeting, that the time is ticking, and the budget meeting that you'll have in November, you'll be having to decide on a tax increase or not, because especially when it comes to our court staff funding, 5.7% increase in 2021, that was covered by the ARPA funds. We don't have that luxury for next year's budget. So where is council going to come up with the money to cover that shortfall for the 5.7% for the staffing? I would get on the horn if I were you, and some of you that are running happen to be friends with some state representatives and state senators. So while you're campaigning, I think it would be in your best interest to discuss this with them, as well as our infrastructure problem, because of the fact that the county spent money on a bridge study for Water Street, and now Mr. Mike Carroll, who is now confirmed as the PennDOT secretary, is now the head of PennDOT. So I would get on the phone with him and ask him what the deal is with this whole mess that now you guys are left with. So my final suggestion to the council is, if none of the applicants meet your satisfaction, like I said last time, to get a second slate of candidates, have the manager search committee get a second slate of candidates. That's all I have. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Urban?
I just want to say a few words. I mean, I thank the three individuals for coming up here and interviewing today. I know as a sitting council member here and listening to some of this, some of it to me is like just repeat. But what I'm looking for as a council member is trust, integrity, and communications are like three of the key components that I'm looking for as a council member when selecting the next county manager. I know one came in with very little municipal law experience when she started years ago, ascended to the rank of acting county manager for months. Division head positions were left open under her watch without permanent replacements. Unlike Mr. Sweats, he had actually chosen some permanent replacements, and we confirmed those. I think, part of leadership is you have a track record. The track record left an impression upon me as one single person. You left sort of those positions open. You left them to kind of expire after 90 days, leaving the county in disarray and lack of stability in leadership capacities, especially when it comes into the second tier of the division heads. Suicides continue in the prison. Litigation's been settled in the tune of millions and still continues. I mean, we really can't put a Band-Aid on a bleeding jugular. I mean, quite honestly, I think all of management, they're all adults. All the division heads are all adults. I've asked for information numerous times in the past. I had to go and collect it on my own from other sources besides the county, and I've asked for it as a county council member, and that is uncalled for. We're up here making tough decisions every day. We need leadership that's responsive to both on this side of the table, because at the end of the day, sometimes it does feel like an us versus them situation, but they create the us versus them situation. I know I could be a tough person at times, line of questioning, but I also am responsible to taxpayers and our residents, just like all of the county is. And when I look for an answer, I don't want to wait 2 or 3 weeks for that answer. I know today I got a response for one of my emails that's been outstanding for a couple of weeks, and I understand the office of law is busy. And if they talk about teamwork, some of us look for it every single day. And part of it is to be responsive to us on council that are making those votes, taking the tough votes and making decisions. I don't expect a stack of 300 pages on a Thursday to be able to digest it over a weekend and then take a vote on it on a Tuesday. I really don't want more of the same here in this county. I'm looking for somebody that's very strong in leadership that can actually hit the ground running on day one. And quite honestly, I have my mind made up out of the three individuals here. One of them in the past not being that selection. So, I just want to put that out there at this point in time.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Council members, you'll also see that you received an invite for an executive session on Monday. That is not an error. It'll be Monday, as long as that's okay with everybody. Respond an email if anybody has